Welcome to episode 392 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I can also be found as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop where I sell my handspun yarns and my knitting patterns, and that is also called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, September 26th. The month is almost over. Fall has officially fallen, and I hope that you are doing well. First things first, I owe you an apology for my absence last week. 2 Thursdays ago, we received the word that my niece's mother had passed away. My brother-in-law, who was my husband's brother, passed away over 10 years ago, and my niece, who is now 23, her mom was her last remaining parent, and unfortunately she died in her sleep unexpectedly. She was just a few years older than I am, and so as soon as we got word, my husband and I pretty much dropped everything and went to the East Coast so that we could be with my niece to support her through this. As it turns out, my niece actually had a lot of it handled, and so there wasn't a ton for us to do, but we spent several days away from home, just kind of hanging out to be there if we were needed. We weren't sure how much help she would need. We weren't sure if there would be a memorial service, those kinds of things. So I arrived home late last week. I had missed almost a full week of work, although I had been able to prep a little bit before we left. And so things were kind of just discombobulated, and I ran out of time to put up a note about the podcast. If you notice, I did not post much at all last week, only once or twice. And so our family life was a little bit tumultuous. So we are more or less back to normal. My niece and nephew, my niece and nephew were both my brother-in-law's children, but they have different mothers. One is still living, so my niece is still sort of figuring things out, and we hope to keep in close contact with her, and will likely go back soon. But we are sort of making an effort to get back into life at home as well. So we did do a lot of driving, which means I have some amount of knitting to show you. It won't look like a lot, but it was a lot. Virginia Beach is approximately an 18.5 or 19-hour drive, and that's if you don't include stops. And so we did that. We went out on a Friday, and we came back on a Tuesday and Wednesday, basically home for Thursday. So it was quite a whirlwind, and again, I apologize for not podcasting, but I am back now, and we'll jump into things. In my absence, it appears fall has started. The couple days we were gone here at home were, I hear, horrendous. They were triple-digit heat index, and the day we got back, it started raining, and temperatures have been in the 60s and low 70s ever since. So I'm a little premature with my sweater wearing. It was chilly in here, and I decided to put it on. It is not quite sweater weather here yet, but it is no longer hot and steamy, and I can definitely, every time I go out, I went out for a walk yesterday, and I could just smell the change in the air. I don't even know how to describe that, but it was just a little bit crisper, a little bit cooler, a little bit windier. The leaves are starting to change a little bit. Generally that doesn't happen until a little bit later in October, but things are starting to happen. And my fall knitting mojo is back with a vengeance. I have so many things that I want to knit and sweaters that I want to cast on, and right now it's just about keeping my head down and getting through some of the projects I have on the needles. So in keeping with the fall spirit today, I decided on a fall tea, pumpkin spice oolong, and this is from Tea Runners, and it is oolong tea, cloves, ginger roots, cinnamon chips, pumpkin spice flavoring, and I got this years ago, and I only have a little bit of it left. This was, I think, when I was part of the Tea Runners tea club, where you get 4 selections a month. Each bag is, I think, 4 ounces, or it might be 1 ounce. I can't remember. It doesn't actually say on here. It's probably 1 ounce a piece, but it was a great club, and the only reason that this says... I can't tell. The only reason that I stopped was just because I started stacking up so much tea I couldn't possibly get through it. So, and that is actually run out of Canada, and just minor trivia for those of you who are a little nerdly like I am. The tea company is actually run by Jewel State and her husband, and Jewel was in the sci-fi series Firefly. So this is what she has gone on and done later on in life. And I am drinking that today in my It's Tea Time mug. This was a purchase from Anthropology years ago, and while it may not be safe for work, it does make me smile. So that is what I'm drinking today. So let's talk about the knits. The two things that I'm going to show you this week you have seen many, many times before. I had hoped that I would be done or much further along, and I am not, but here goes. So on Miles' sweater, I really, really, really hope this is the last time you see this not done. I am so close. I am about 2 inches away on finishing up his second sleeve. So I should finish that this evening. I just didn't manage to get through it last night because it was 11 o'clock and I was tired and I was like, you know what, I'll do it tomorrow. So I have probably 15, well, I have a few more inches than that. I think I have about 15 more rows, one more decrease, and then some cuff ribbing, and then I will be done. Just as a reminder, this is the Croissant sweater by Lisa Chemery. I modified it to not include striping, otherwise I'm knitting it per pattern. I'm basically just knitting it as a plain top-down raglan sweater. I'm knitting, I believe, the either 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 size for my nephew, who will be 6 this fall. I chose to go up a size because I think it's the 6 to 8 size. I chose to go up a size because I was really worried that if I knit him a 6, he would outgrow it this year, and I was hoping it might last him more than 1 year. So I decided to go a little bit big, figuring they can cuff up the sleeves. But I am knitting the sleeves to the full length because, again, I would like it to last a couple years. So this will be a little bit big for him this year. But yeah, and then the fun part comes with, as soon as I am done with the sleeve, I'm going to pop this in the washing machine and dryer. This is superwash yarn. It is Dreaming Color Classy in the colorway Bedtime. It is 250 yards to a 4-ounce skein, which is 113 grams. So it is a worsted weight. I'm knitting it up per sizes in the pattern. So what I was going to say is, as soon as I have so many things to say and I'm just talking a mile a minute. So I chose the yarn that I did because I have worked with it before. It is superwash, it is machine washable, and technically machine dryable. On most of my knits, when I want them to last a lifetime, I do not put things in the washer and the dryer. However, when I knit for my sister's kids, I want to keep it simple for her so that she can put things in the washer and dryer because, let's face it, kids are messy. Let's also face it, even if they keep these garments, they're not going to be wearing them for a lifetime. So I make the sacrifice that they will get a little bit harder wear because, of course, the machine and the dryer are a little bit harder wear. I do recommend gentle cycle and low heat on the dryer. You know, be as gentle as you can, but don't make yourself crazy if you have children. So that is what I'm knitting this in. When I am done, I am going to wash it and dry it. That is for 2 reasons. One, because I always wash and dry things before I give them out, because that way if something happens to them in the washing machine or the dryer, it's on me, it's not on the gift recipient, and they also aren't like, I just got this beautiful gift and then I ruined it, what is she gonna say? I would be back to square one, but I'll deal with that. The second purpose for my washing and drying this sweater right away is that I made this sweater as a blank canvas for some really fun Super Mario charts that I have that I am going to duplicate stitch onto the sweater. And I want to go ahead and wash and dry the sweater and make sure that it is in its kind of final form before I start duplicate stitching, because I want to be sure that the gauge of everything that I'm doing is correct. I don't want it to shrink up. I don't want there to be too much slack in the duplicate stitches because I want the embroidery to look nice and clean. So that is my plan. Like I said, I hope I'll finish this tonight. I will run this through the washer this week. Maybe I'll even do it with his sisters because these are usually color fast, and I'll wash in water with cool water with a color catcher. But I need to finish up these sweaters because both kids' birthdays are in October, and this Saturday is October 1st. I don't mean to alarm you, but we are there. So my plan is to hopefully embroider the sweater this weekend and show this to you for one final time next Monday. So I think I mentioned all the pertinent details. If you missed something or want to know more about this, all the details are in the pattern and the yarn and everything is linked in my show notes, which are at thecornerofknitnt.com. And I will say, as I always say, I do not link to Ravelry anymore because I know for some people that is not safe. Any pattern that is linked will be going to some site other than Ravelry, usually the designer's website, Etsy, Craftsy, Payhip, anywhere where you can purchase the pattern that is not Ravelry. If the design is not linked, it means you can find it on Ravelry, but unfortunately the designer does not offer it elsewhere. So if you just copy and paste the name of the sweater and the designer name into Google or take it over to Ravelry, it will pop up and you'll be able to get the pattern from there. It just means that it's not available elsewhere. And I just do that because I don't want to send anyone to Ravelry unintentionally. Or I don't want to send anyone to Ravelry who doesn't want to be there. So, yeah. So the second project that I worked on this week is one that you have also seen many times, and I wish I had gotten through more progress on it, but I did actually make quite a bit of progress. So this is a sample that I am knitting for Zen Yarn Garden, and it is a fingering weight cardigan. It is called Maima by Megan Nodecker, who is Pip and Pin, and I am knitting it in Zen Yarn Garden's superfine fingering, which is 90% superfine superwash merino and 10% nylon in the colorway Party Time. So that is Zen Yarn Garden, and the yarn is a very light speckle. It is a white, and then it is speckled with all kinds of colors, and the interesting thing is I only see certain colors. When I see it in the ball, it looks very primary to me, which is like red and yellow and blue, and it turns out that there is red, there is pink, there is a little bit of yellow, there's a little bit of green, and then there is kind of a turquoisey blue and a darker blue, and honestly, I did not know that all those colors were in there until I unwound the second two, until I unwound the hanks before I was going to wind them up. In the ball, it just looks very primary, but when I was actually winding it from the hank, I could see all the different sections of color that they had laid on there because they speckled them sort of in rainbow order. So the pattern I said is Maima. I am knitting the large size because that is what I have yarn for. The pattern calls for, in that size, approximately 1,500 yards of fingering weight yarn, and I have broken into the second two cakes, but I am very lightly into the second two cakes. The reason I have two going is because I am using indie dyed yarn, and when I use indie dyed yarn, particularly multiple skeins in a garment, I do like to alternate skeins so that if there is any color pooling, I can avoid that, or if there is any difference in the dye lots, I can avoid that as well. All these skeins were dyed at the same time, but because they are dyed, they are speckled, they do not all look 100% similar. On one, green and blue actually overlapped a little bit, and there was like even a teal in there that I didn't see in the other skein. So this is what I do when I knit with indie dyed yarn. I am all the way through the first two cakes, and I am on the second two cakes. So let's talk about progress. This sweater is a top-down raglan, and what it is the fronts and the back are all done in a honeycomb brioche stitch, and the sleeves are done in a stockinette stitch. So I will not lie, the top part of this sweater was a huge slog because it is fingering weight yarn and you are doing raglan increases, and so that part where it's like widest around right before you split for the sleeves is no joke, several hundred stitches, and it takes forever to do a row. However, I was close to the sleeve split when we left on our trip, and so it was pretty easy to get that accomplished, and then I moved into the body, which is going along faster. I will say that part of the reason that this is not, it doesn't look like it's hugely far along, is also because the honeycomb stitch in the brioche actually tends to pull the row gauge to be smaller, and so it is taking me more rows than it would if I were just in plain stockinette to get the length that I need. So that said, here is where I am. So I really have gotten quite a bit of work done. When I left, I was about 8 rows away from splitting for the sleeves. I have split for the sleeves, and now I am, I think, about 7 inches into the body. I need to go another 6, I believe, or 6.5 before I finish the body, and then I have the 2 sleeves, and then I have the, I don't want to call it a button band because there are no buttons. This is meant to be an open front cardigan, but it is a band and a collar. It goes all the way around, and it's in twisted rib. So I really do have half the work still ahead of me. I had hoped to finish the sweater in September, and as you can tell, that is not going to happen. Sometimes these things just happen that way, and luckily Zen Yarn Garden is very patient with me, and they were aware that I needed to be out of town for a while. I did do a lot of knitting in the car, and I've done a decent amount of knitting since I've been back. I'm going to finish Miles' sweater, and then I'm going to buckle down and work on this one, and I'm not sure I'm going to start anything else until this is done. I really, really, really need this to be done. I have another shawl that I need to knit for them, another sample. I have a bunch of other things coming up. And Nanny Swaymo is around the corner. That's November 1st. So plus I have some holiday gifts I need to knit, some more socks for the kids. I have tons of things I want and need to do. So my plan is to buckle down and work on this pretty much all of this week and to see how far I can get. The only other thing that I have been working on is I do have some chicken yarn, so I will be working on that some. But with only chickens and this project, I really, really, really hope that I know I won't be done by next week, but if I could be done by the following week, that would put us at October 10th, I think. I would consider that a real win. So that is what I'm gonna be doing. So you will definitely see this a couple more times, and I apologize that there won't be tons more interesting to show you, but that is where I'm at right now. And then we'll cast on all new things. I want to knit a bunch of hats for my niece and nephew. Well, okay. Now that we've reconnected with my niece and nephew on the East Coast, we also got to meet their significant others and a few other people who are sort of in their group of created family. And my dream would be to send a box of 5 or 6 hats that they can all choose from for the holidays. I realize that that puts me in short supply of time, so I have to see how that one's going to work out. And then I do need to knit probably 1 to 2 pairs of socks for each my niece and nephew on my sister's side, the little ones. So I still, I guess I have 2 pairs for one and 1 pair for the other. So at least 1 more pair of socks, if not more than that. And I just have a lot of yarn I want to dig into. So that is what is going on here. So let me take a brief sip of tea, and then we'll talk a little bit about spinning. I do have a finished spin to show you, and then I'll just talk about what I'm working on right now, even though it is not destined for the shop. So last week, I think I was getting ready to ply a beautiful skein from Kim Dye's Yarn. Sorry, think about it for a minute. This is Polworth and Tussa Silk, and it is in the colorway Red Robin. Red Robin? I think Red Robin. And it is basically it is robin colors. And if you have ever seen a robin, which I actually had not seen until I moved to the Midwest, they are usually kind of brown or gray, and then their belly is, contrary to popular belief, it's not really red. It's usually like a dark orange. So when they say robin redbreast, it's not red like a cardinal. It's a very orangey red, and the rest of the bird is kind of a brown or gray. And so it's kind of a very neutral tone, and that's what I received from Kim Dye's Yarn here. So this is approximately 337 yards. I guess that's not approximately, that's exact. It's approximately 335 yards of what I would guess is a sport to DK weight, probably a sport weight. And it is absolutely luscious. It is so soft. This would be wonderful for against the skin. It did not puff up as much as I expected Polworth to, but that's okay. It does definitely have that silky feeling. It has been washed. I will be photoing it after I record here and putting it up in the shop, so it should be up in the shop. I promise, I promise, I promise. By the time you see this video, usually I'm really bad about that. And so that is if you have someone who's interested in more neutrals, or you are interested in more neutrals, this would be kind of a fun one. Like I said, it does have some streaks of kind of orangey, but the rest is kind of gray, and it's got some other colors in the gray. It looked like it had a little bit of maybe green and a little bit of a hint of purple, but you will see that as you knit it up, but that's not what the overall color is going to convey. It's going to be very kind of gray and brown and orange. So this would also be a really good one if you're looking for someone who does not like all the bright colors, which I'm normally an all the bright colors person, so this is very unlike me, but it was fun to spin, and I do love these colors, and again, it reminds me of fall, and it's orange, and it's lovely. So the next thing that I'm working on spinning, I had another spin picked out, but as it turned out, I got asked to spin some chicken yarn. So I just thought I would show you basically what I am spinning are kind of a little bit of thick and thin singles in some white merino. It is very not exciting, but it will end up being turned into another chicken. I have close to 2 pounds of this. So, and these are, I believe, 4 ounce, no, these are, let me think about this. I spun this on my Ashford Joy. I think these are 6 ounce bobbins. So this one I packed pretty full. Did a good job on this one. I didn't do as good a job on this one. You can see there's more air there. These are Acreworks bobbins, and I spun this up on my Ashford Joy, which is a dual treadle. I find that when I am spinning this thicker stuff that I really like using the treadle wheel because it really helps me control it. I love my electric wheel for spinning things where I need to be super consistent and thin, but I find that much harder to do with thicker spun yarns, so I went back to my treadle wheel for this one. I have at least probably another 4 or 5 bobbins of this, so that is what I'm going to be doing, and then later this week I think I'm picking up whatever the contrast color is going to be. It's going to be white and something else. I just don't know if it's going to be black or brown or color or whatnot, and then eventually I'm going to turn this into one of those amazing pinstripe chickens. This is for a customer. It's not for me. I have not gotten back to my own chicken. I'm thinking that might be a Christmas project when I always take a week or 2 off right around the holidays, and specifically when we go to my mother-in-law's for Christmas, and I take stuff with me to work on. Usually that's for me or that I just want to do. I think last year I took a bunch of those scrappy hats because they were just fun, but I'm thinking this year I might try and work on my chicken quite a bit. I would really like to put that together. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I work for a artisan called the City Girl Farm here in Kansas City, and they are the home of the original chicken footstool. I won't elaborate too much more, but you can Google the City Girl Farm if you want to see what I'm talking about. Basically, we make art pieces that are meant to look like chickens, some of them more realistically than others. I have been working with them for a couple years now, and they are it is one of the things that is kind of most incongruous with the other things that I do, just in the sense that when I knit samples for companies, it is a very exact process. When I spin for my shop, it is, I am very much a perfectionist. I like to put yarns in there that are beautifully spun and wonderful to knit with. And sometimes for the chickens, it's a little bit loosey-goosey, fly by the seat of your pants, and the yarns are anything but consistent, but that is exactly the way they like them. So it's just, it is kind of a, it's the one thing that doesn't fit with everything else I do, and I absolutely love it, and it would be the last thing for me to give up if I had to give things up. So, yeah. So I hope that you are doing well. Again, I apologize for my absence last week. It just couldn't be helped. But I do try and keep a fairly consistent recording schedule so you know what to expect and when to expect me. And it also keeps me on track because then I know I need to finish some stuff so that I can share it with you. Which is good because I am very deadline oriented. So I hope that you have a wonderful week ahead. I hope that everyone around you, your family and friends, are happy and healthy. I hope that you are enjoying the changing of the seasons no matter where you live. And I will say until I see you next time, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next week. Bye.